Hello YouTube, welcome to my review. Now what I'll be reviewing today is my own personal favourite amp ever. This is a VHT Pitbull 5012 combo. It's made by VHT, which are an American company. It's a Pitbull model, and the 5012 means that it's 50 watts, which can be switchable down to 12 watts Class A. And as you can see, it's also a desk. Wow. This is because I've got hardly any space in my room, so it functions as a desk as well as an amp. It's a basic 2-channel amp. You've got a clean and a distortion channel, and then you've got all these little grey buttons you can see here. When you push them in, it makes it sound awesome. And then a 6-band graphic EQ for extra win, reverb, which is pretty nice, and it's a 2x12 combo, so it's heavy to carry. It's got Pitbull speakers in it, made by VHT, but they do sound amazing. I have put this through a vintage 30 cabinet, but the speakers in this combo sound amazing on its own. So if you are looking for the best amp ever built, you've found it. So let's have a look, see what it does. Right, the guitar I'll be using will be my ESP Eclipse with Seymour Duncan humbuckers again. And we'll start off with the clean channel. Now for all of these I have my 6-band EQ set with a very slight kind of smile curve. Find that the mids aren't really dipped, they're pretty much on the level, and then I boosted the bass a little bit and the treble a little bit just to give it a little kind of kick to it. So the clean, I've got it set pretty scooped again. All these buttons are switched out, so this is the standard clean with treble high, mid low, bass high. Pretty standard kind of, it's a bit Fenderish. For an EL34 amp it's quite a nice clean. And then we've got a button that says boost. Just gives it a lot of kick. Button says bright. Even more kick, that can rip your head off, that can. And then shift, which is kind of more of a mid kind of punch. I don't use this clean channel that much because I tend to just use the drive channel and roll the volume down. But for, you know, that kind of Fendery clean, which is really nice with a bit of reverb. I've got the reverb set really low. It's quite a lot of harsh reverb on this. I think it's a spring reverb. I don't tend to use this reverb, I tend to use an external reverb, but it's a nice clean channel. There's nothing amazingly special about it, but it works and it's really kind of nice sounding. So we'll get onto the main event, which is the drive channel. Now my settings for drive are pretty much 666, the devil's number, everything kind of just past midway, and then I'll just switch all these buttons out, so standard drive channel. Very kind of powerful, really punchy. It's kind of martially but a bit more focused, a bit more smooth. And we'll just kick the boost in, which adds more gain to it. And there's a button called Edge, which again adds more gain, adds more top end. It's kind of like sticking a treble booster into the amp. And lastly we've also got this shift button, which pumps kind of the upper mid. It's kind of got a bit more of a kick to it, so it's really nice. Kind of, it's not smooth like a Mesa, you know, not stupidly high gain. If we crank the gain all the way, it hasn't got such a stupid amount of gain that you can't use it. It's got just the right amount, which is very considerate. And then of course course, there is always a reason why I love the amps that I love, and it's mainly because I'm high gain, you know. It's like high gain, this is my main kind of metal-y sound. And then if I just roll my volume down to about 3 or 4, what I like for my clean sound isn't a perfectly clean sound. I like that kind of just kind of on the brink of distortion clean, which for most amps, when you have them on high gain, when you roll the volume down, it does tend to still have a bit of that. It sounds thin and it's got a bit of that drive. It sounds like it's a high gain amp that wants to be driven a bit more. Whereas this, it's a bit more spiky, which I like, because when you're playing live you want a bit more spike, so it kind of cuts through the mix a bit more. But then when you can pick live and get that really kind of clean, sparkly, and then just pick a little harder to get a bit more grit. So you've got all your sounds controlled from your guitar, which is how it's meant to be, and then you've just got your amp sitting there doing what it does. No crazy foot switches going everywhere. And speaking of foot switches, this is the foot switch for the Pitbull. It's got lots of buttons to it. You've got the channel switch between 2 channels, the boost, so depending on where the boost is on here you can add the boost to each channel, and then you've got the switchable, the effects loop is switchable on and off. It's a series or parallel effects loop which can be set for pedals or rack units, and then you've got your EQ. You can switch the EQ on and off from here as well, and you can assign the EQ to either the red, which is the distortion, or the green, which is the clean channel. So it's quite a in-depth foot switch. It works on a MIDI pin, I think. I don't use it, so it's just kind of sitting there, but it does control things very well. And the boost is nice. So you've essentially, out of a 2-channel amp, you've got like 4 or 5 channels using boosts and EQs and different kind of things. So it's a really versatile kind of amp. I bought it second-hand from some guy who was playing kind of classic rock kind of stuff, and I play a really metal kind of stuff, so you know, it really works for everything. And then you didn't see earlier, there's a high and a low jack, so if you've got active pickups you can pump it into the low jack to give it kind of, it just attenuates it so it just sounds good. It just sounds good in general. I mean, let's drop to here. I think it passes the dime bag test if we just mid 0, treble 10, gain 10. It's always fun to do the dime bag test on an amp. Get everything back to normal. So, quick noodling, what do I think of this amp? I would give this amp 20,000 out of 10 because it just sounds brilliant. It doesn't sound too much like a Marshall, it doesn't sound too much like a Mesa, it doesn't sound too much like any other amp. It's VHT have got their own kind of voicing. It's very smooth but very crunchy and very ballsy at the same time, and it cleans up so well. And there are so many features in here that if you can't find the sound that you're looking for in this amp, you've got to be retarded, because okay, it is a tweaker's amp. It's not like a Mesa where you're sitting there turning knobs by a millimetre just to try and get a different sound. The knobs, they work as you want them to work, but you've got 7 little buttons and a 6-band EQ, and to be fair, they all sound good whenever you tweak them around. And I can't stop. I can't say enough good things about this amp. VHT, they're hard to get in the UK. But if you can, find one, try one out, because they are superb amps, and I will never, ever get rid of this amp. Ever.